is another excellent SARE national event, and the topic today is Money Smart banking services available for small businesses. So this is certainly going to be incredible information for everybody that's here. My name is Jenny Ann Chondo, and if we haven't met before on these sessions, I am here to serve as the moderator of the event. So right along you, I will be taking notes, listening along, and then entertaining a conversation with our speaker at the end. So my function here is to be able to chat with all of you in the chat, take your questions, take them down, and get those questions answered, because this is truly a two-way conversation here. We are going to hear from an incredible speaker, and then the second chunk of this will be Q&A, a conversation between all of us and Dawn Inocencio, who is a banking center president. So let me tell you a little bit about her, because she really does have an excellent presentation for today. This is a two-part event, so she has so much information to share. We're spreading it from this week to next week, so it's wonderful that you're here today, and you'll be able to hopefully be there for next week as well. But I'll tell you a little bit about her. She is the banking center president at Westmoreland Banking Center for Prosperity Bank. This is not something she just started. She has been in banking for about 20 years, so she really does bring a wealth of knowledge. She has worked in retail areas of banking. Her focus is on business development and loans, so it's really perfect for our group. What she does here professionally, and then also as we are learning from her today, is that she educates business owners on how to help them grow by informing them of all the options that are available. She's also someone who's really passionate about serving the community, and that's a big part of what we're doing here is service-based. So she is on the board for the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in Grand Prairie. She's on the Grand Prairie Education Foundation, also on the membership committee for Seroptimus International of Grand Prairie, also again involved in the Grand Prairie Chamber. So the larger chamber, and then the Hispanic Chamber as well. I just love that she is so committed to our community. Without further ado, let me welcome in Dawn Inocencio. And don't forget, as you all have questions, don't be shy. Type them in the chat, and we'll have a conversation on the back end of this. Okay, Dawn, take it away.
Hi, my name is Dawn Inocencio. Thank you so much, Jenny, and thank you everybody for being on this afternoon. So banking services available for small businesses. The reason I like to touch base on this is because this will give you your basic business 101 for any business owner starting out. You've been in it for years. These are just things you don't think about as a business owner. And you want to make sure that you're maximizing what your bank has to offer, no matter where you bank, and make sure that your bank is taking care of you. So a few points that I'm going to touch on today, this afternoon, is business banking fundamentals and choosing the right bank. Those are the main things that I'm going to be going over in this segment. Some of our learning objectives are going to be, identifying your banking services, the accessibility of the bank that you're at. Is the branch accessible for what your business needs are? And then if you have any advantages or disadvantages of banking services. So those are some of the highlighted learning objectives that we're going to be going over. In addition, some of these are what we're going to be going over next time. So that's the lending portion. Okay, so one of the things I like to highlight is, what do you want to learn about your banking service? When you walk into a bank, one thing that we highlight is you want to have a relationship with your banker. That is huge. Whether you're starting to open a new account, you have questions and you want to start a loan, you need to build that relationship with your banker. You want to go in and have a relationship and know who's going to assist you. And what do you expect from that location or that bank? Do they have convenient locations? If, you need to deposit checks or cash, do they have ATM accessibility where you can make deposits? Do they have a night depository where you can make it at night after hours, or do they have a drive-through? So, and then some of these services are what you need to think about when you go in and you open a bank account. So another thing, factors when you want to consider what banking services you need. There's a couple different types of checking accounts that we have. There's a commercial account and, regular business account. Some banks will offer different services that come with the account depending on your activity. So make sure that you're assessing, how much activity that you have in your checking account and determine which one's the best one for you. And a specialized banker or a relationship banker at the bank you go to will be able to break that down for you and make sure that we get you in the right account for your needs. Savings accounts and certificates of deposits. A savings account, of course, will help you earn interest on your money. It is restricted on the amount of withdrawals that you do have. So just make sure, you put the money in there and you limit the transactions. Certificate of deposits, what we call a CD. When you do have a CD, I'm sorry, when you have a CD, it is termed. So whether you pick 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, just know when you put your money in one of those, it will lock the money in for that term. So definitely make sure you get additional information and know what to expect. So we go over all of that. Account access, you want your bank to be accessible. Make sure you have online banking and make sure you have the apps available for your use. And don't wait till you need it. Go ahead and get everything taken care of so that way when you do need it, you do have access. All right, so one of the things that I want you to think about is, with the banking services that I just mentioned, think to yourself, what do you try to find in a bank? I just went over multiple things that you can think of, but I just want you to make a note to yourself. So before doing this presentation, you should have had access to a participant guide. That's just for your reference to have. So you can make a note to yourself, what are you going to look for when you go into that bank? So you want to make sure to take that in consideration and really take some time to think about it. Okay, and so some of these I had already mentioned, but ATM usage and availability it's really important. A lot of people don't think about that until they go and make an ATM deposit. Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. Not all ATMs are imaging ATMs where they can accept deposits. So I have found with a lot of business owners that's key for them to be able to go and make a deposit at the ATM. Make sure they have the products and services that you need, and then fees. Banks, we do have fees. So just make sure that you know what to expect. If there's a minimum balance requirement, a monthly service fee on your account, make sure to review everything. And then deposited funds availability, that's a really important topic because when you're building a relationship with a bank and we're getting to know you and building that rapport, your funds could be on delay. So we always go over all that. Each bank does when you make a deposit, we go over our funds availability. So on the checking accounts that I was talking about, we have the small business or commercial checking. The commercial checking is more what we call like a business account analysis. If you have over a certain amount of transactions, that's the one that I was referring to. If you have multiple transactions coming through, that might be more fitted for your account. When we're talking about the payroll and operating accounts, for instance, like a zero balance feature account, you open up two accounts and what we call the zero balance account, your paychecks will be written out of one of the accounts. So say you're writing all these checks out to your employees, say you have multiple checks that you're going to write, it's a protection for you because at night when the checks go through processing, we're transferring from your main account that has a bulk of your funds. So the other account is at a zero balance. So it helps with fraud protection. It's gonna come through at night like a sweep account. One of the things that is also very important when it comes to your business and personal transactions is you don't want to commingle. You want to keep them separate. Have a separate personal account, separate from your business. And we don't recommend doing transactions on your business account that are personal. You're going to need those records for your taxes, or if you're trying to get a loan, say if the bank does require bank statements, you're going to have all those personal transactions on there, and it'll be very difficult to separate out and can cause you some issues with trying to separate out the transactions and make sure you pay yourself. Whether you write a check from your business account and deposit it into your personal account, or you have a payroll service that does that for you, make sure you're taking care of yourself and you're paying yourself whether it's biweekly, once a month. You have to separate the funds out in order to put it on record that way. Okay, so this goes into a little bit more of, to what I was speaking of to ensure accurate bookkeeping and avoid tax consequences if your records need to be pulled. And make sure to follow the proper protocol for transferring funds. Each bank has a different way that they do it. A lot of people that I talk to, they prefer just to write themselves a check and deposit it into their business account, like I mentioned, or they have like a payroll service or direct deposit, and then they have it going there. And they keep it consistent and they pay themselves either weekly or biweekly. All right, additional banking services, payroll services. You can have a payroll company that you work with or check with your bank. It's some of our treasury management services to prevent potential fraud and forgeries. It helps with record keeping and direct deposit. So this could be a payroll service company, any company that you use right now, or if you know that has some of these services, it really is beneficial for you. And a lot of businesses, it's very popular with direct deposit. If you don't have multiple employees, it could be costly, but it'll save you time, for instance, with doing the direct deposit, because you can set them up, have them sent weekly to your employees or every 2 weeks or whatever the case may be, and then everything's taken care of for you versus you writing a check. And then you have another company doing that work for you. So it keeps all your records straight. Okay, our cash management services. Each bank has different cash management services that we offer through our treasury management department. So you want to make sure to check with your bank to see the additional services that are offered that could benefit your business. These are some of the things that banks offer, like a sweep investment account, other types of sweep accounts from your business savings to your business checking to protect your account, in case you have an overdraft. Online funds transfer, that's very important if you need to transfer money, say if you have the business savings or two business checking accounts and you're transferring between those two accounts. Lockbox service, a lot of people they don't utilize lockbox service, at least ones that come my way. But what benefits your business about lockbox service is, say your business has where someone's going to pay you monthly or weekly and you're going to get multiple checks in. I'm talking stacks of checks monthly. We can set up a lockbox service where we process those payments for you. So the payments get mailed into us and we process and get everything taken care of for you. So there's always additional fees for that, but you can definitely check with your bank on it. When it comes to one that I recommend, sorry, is Positive Pay. I love Positive Pay. There are fees associated with it with any bank that you go to, but the good thing about Positive Pay is you're going to make a list, through like an online portal that you have with the bank of checks that you wrote. So some businesses might only write 10 checks a month, some might write 100. So you log the check number, and if you pay additional, you can put the company that you made that check to. So when you put that company in and you submit it to your bank, we're not going to pay it unless it's on that list, because you're paying and you're paying for us to utilize that Positive Pay service. So we're going to protect you, and it's an added protection that we offer to ensure that only the checks that come through are the ones that you authorized. I had a situation last year where a check was not registered on Positive Pay. The fraudster, criminal, whatever you want to call them, had a check and they altered the check and made it out to him. So he was trying to come and cash it as a non-client, get the check, and the check was over $7,000. When I called the business owner to verify it, sure enough, it was made out to like a roofing company or landscaping. It was a separate company. So I called the police and they were able to arrest him. But that's one of the benefits, is the information didn't match with what we had on the system. So this touches base on a little bit more of what I mentioned about savings accounts and certificates of deposits. Savings, it's very important to start building for you personally and for your business. You do want to have a separate savings account and start building your cash flow. Have your funds available for an emergency, or if your business is slow, you'll have the funds available to you. But just remember, on savings, there are limitations on withdrawals that you can do. Yeah, we don't, banks, you can't treat it like a checking account. So you want to make sure to put money over there and make sure it's money that you're going to be able to save. And if you need it as an emergency or a couple withdrawals a month, that's different. But multiple activity on there throughout the time, then we'll have to visit getting you a checking account. So just make sure that you talk to your banker about it, or myself, and I can assess your needs and see what we need to put you in. And then the certificates of deposits, again, what I mentioned. So if you say you open a 12-month certificate of deposit and you put 10,000 in there, I highly recommend making sure that that's funds you're not going to need right away. If you only have 10,000, then open a CD for less than that, like 5,000. Make sure you have your emergency fund still available so you have liquidity to it. Because if you need to access your money, you can't access your money until the next 12 months. When a CD matures, you typically have a 10-day grace period to access your money or make a deposit to it. So if you try to do it any other time, you will be penalized. And depending on the bank and the CD the term that you opened, the penalty could be pretty hefty. So just make sure that and the interest rate is competitive. So just make sure you talk to them about the interest rate and what you'll be locking in for at 12 months or 24 months or higher. And make sure that you won't need access to the funds right away, or at least expect to know if you do need to access them, you can, but with a penalty. So on this one, when you're depositing, so remote deposit scanner is similar to what we have in banks. It's almost just the same, but you're going to have it in your business office or your home office. And if you get multiple checks, this is very beneficial because you don't have to bring them into the bank. You literally just take the checks, make sure everything's good on them. The program will tell you, how to load them, and then you're just going to run them through the scanner. And then at most of the times, we even have extended times that you can process them. Most banks have extended times to process them to get same-day credit. So it's definitely very beneficial. And it takes away, there are fees associated with it, but it takes away from, say you have an office and you have your office assistant who's going to have to run to the bank. Well, that person will have to run to the bank, wait in the bank, get the deposit, get a receipt and bring it back to the office, where you could just have her do it from the office, and then everything's taken care of from there. So you save time and money that way. So it's definitely beneficial. I would recommend seeing how much the scanner costs, seeing if it would be beneficial for your business, and then weigh your options from there. So online access is very beneficial for a business. Believe it or not, there's still some businesses out there when you open your account, you don't set up online access right away. We get it, you're busy. We highly recommend it though, because like I said, you want to set it up from the get-go, from the beginning. You set up your online access, you make sure you can get in. If you can't, make sure to get with your bank representative or banker to ensure that you can get in. Because when you have that emergency or you need to transfer funds or see what's going on with your account, you're not able to, at least in the timely manner. And I personally like to check my account daily. So, some people do it daily or they reconcile it monthly is what we recommend. But you want to make sure that you're checking your account often. So deposit insurance, I'm not going to go into full in depth of what's listed in here, but there is an FDIC website and the packet that I provided. There's a bunch of useful websites through there. You just need to know, as a business owner, these are different types that are covered, sole proprietorships, corporations. There's multiple here that are covered, and the coverage is 250,000. So that's per account styling. So when you go to the FDIC website, if you're concerned about your deposit coverage, and it's for each separate bank. So if you're concerned about that, make sure and go and check it out. They even have a calculator where you can put in what type of accounts that you have, whether it's a POD account, a business account. You can type in the amount of money that you have with that specific bank, and it'll tell you if you're covered. So I definitely recommend that to making sure that you're covered with your financial institution. So additional services, I mean, everybody has a business debit card, or if they don't, you typically do need one if you need to access your funds. And make sure to ask your bank about the risk involved, because business debit card fraud on your account is a lot different than consumer. Businesses aren't, they're not covered the same way that consumers are through Reg E. So just make sure that what risks are involved and what limits you have, because we do set limits in place to protect you and the bank. But if you do have a transaction that comes through, so for instance, for us, some banks might have $2,500 point of sale. So make sure to check with your bank, and if you do need higher limitations, talk to them about it. Know what you're going to need in the beginning and see if you can get a higher limit if you need to purchase equipment. And just know that there's risk involved in that. And if you notice anything suspicious, I recommend, noticing it within 24 hours and notifying your bank immediately. If you have any type of fraud activity, especially we have business owners who will get debit cards for their employees. We can set different limitations for the employees. They can get that card and then they can use it for gas or whatever purpose they're doing it for their business. But we do have a way to get cards for that. And each bank's different on how they do that. So just make sure to check with them. Okay, merchant processing services, what merchant processing is for anybody who's not aware is accepting debit and credit cards. When you have debit and credit cards, you makes your ticket sales higher, in my opinion. You can get more money because it's more accessible to the consumer, the person who's going to pay you for your products and services, or whatever your business has. So it's very beneficial. Anything from credit cards, online payments. So when we're talking about merchant services, make sure the company that you're going through, that you know what the fees are. Making sure they're PCI compliant is what I would recommend. That helps with if information gets accessed. Talk to them about fraud protection as well. So if you process credit and debit cards and something happens along the lines of fraud, you could be held liable. So make sure to talk to your merchant service providing company, and talk to them about those additional protections and see what the additional cost is. I would recommend definitely looking into that. And a lot of the times you can get gift cards, you can make online payments, it'll help with your sales. And they also have different tracking and bookkeeping for all your processing. And it can be downloaded, and then you can have it easily accessible when you're reconciling your books. Um, so this brings us back to what we were talking about in the beginning. What do you want to learn about your banking services? Again, what do you want your bank to offer to you? How do you want your bank to be there for you? Because we're in this business to make sure you're taken care of as a business owner. What do you need from us? I'm here for you. I want to make sure that you're taken care of no matter what bank that you go to. So that actually concludes the presentation for today.
Awesome, Dawn. Thank you so much. You are, obviously, we got your 20 years of experience here in 24 minutes.
Okay.
Impressive. We got it all. So I would love to hear from everybody. I know somebody pointed in, gosh, she's covering so much at once. So this is our time, you guys, to digest it. So we learned a little bit about what she can offer. So this is our time right now to be able to digest that information and to take the time and ask some of those specific questions. So if you felt like, oh, that whizzed by and I need more details,
Yeah.
this is the time to post it in the chat, because it's a kind of a rare opportunity to have access to somebody like Dawn. Although I know you make yourself available to clients and such, but to sort of have this kind of face to face. So let me be the face for you if you have questions. And Dawn, I want to start at where this may seem simple for you, but for business owners that are, or maybe business owners to be, I should even say, somebody that's like, okay, I've had a regular credit card and checking account. I know I need to get something separate. I want to start the business. Can you tell us where they start? Is it you go and become a business first, then open your account? Is a banking account for your business the first thing you do before you're even recognized as a business? Let us know what the order is there.
Okay, great question. So actually, you want to determine who your business is going to be. Are you going to be a sole proprietorship? What kind of entity are you going to have? An LLC, corporation? Pick your name and get your documents filed of how you want to file it. Get your EIN number, through the Secretary of State website, SOS. Some people they're like, I just want to be a sole proprietorship. It's going to be their name doing business as ABC Flowers or whatever the case may be. They can go to the county clerk's office and get an assumed name certificate, but they have to decide how they want to file their business. Then they can open the business account.
Okay, so you really do. And I think for some people, they might think, oh, I'll just go open a business account first, and that makes me a business. And we've been getting some great education during these sessions. I don't know about you all, but I feel like, we've been getting some great education on that. But that's wonderful to learn in terms of the order. Decide what kind of business you're going to be, then you go to the bank. And is it a situation where you just show up at a branch, or is it separate with business? Because as individuals, we just like show up and do our banking. When it comes to being, doing business as a business, is this something where you call ahead and say, hey, and explain what you need because it's going to take a little more time? Do you make an appointment?
It depends on the bank. With us, you can walk into any of our banking centers and we'll get you taken care of. You know, um, we usually typically have a couple bankers available, so you can just let them know you want to open a business account. They'll go over the documents you have and get you taken care of. It's rare we have to make an appointment for someone to come back, but depending on where you bank, I would check with them.
Got it. And how much time should somebody prepare for something like that? Like, is it something you can squeeze in? Like, I got to pick my kid up from school at 3:15 and it's 2:45, or is it something where you think, okay, Monday morning, 9 a.m., I'm going in and gonna set out a chunk of a couple hours?
I would do the Monday morning idea, because when you're in a hurry and you're rushing, we're gonna do like, I don't personally open the accounts, but we're gonna do the best that we can for you to get it taken care of. But, when things get rushed, then things might get missed, and, with me, I'm thorough. So I used to be a banker. I would usually tell someone to allot 45 minutes to an hour, but that's because I wanna get to know you. I wanna get to know your business, how we're gonna grow, make sure you have all the proper documents and get the account open for you. There might be something that you need me to go over with you and you need a little bit more time. So I would allot a little bit more time to get it taken care of.
So we're going in, we're prepped, we're ready. What sorts of things would somebody need to bring into that first meeting and that first appointment? Like, I mean, are you bringing ID? Are you bringing statements? Are you bringing proof that you're a business? What is it?
Great question. Each bank is different. So I would, check with the bank that you decide to go with, shop around, make sure that that bank's going to have what you need, see what kind of fees are associated with it first. Then once you pick the bank, they'll let you know at that time. So typically you'll need like a primary form of ID. You might need a secondary form of ID as well, like another credit card, debit card, social security card, something like that to verify your identity. Those are just some examples. And then you'll need your entity documents. So if you chose to be, for example, a sole proprietorship and have a DBA, you'll need the assumed name certificate. And some banks will let you use a tax ID number, like the EIN number that you filed, or some banks require you just to use your social. So just make sure to clarify that. And they'll go over that with you too. If you filed like as a corporation, for instance, you'll have additional documents that you need.
Somebody said EIN question mark. Can you explain that?
Employer identification number, it's something that you file through the Secretary of State if you need one. Most people talk to like their CPA, their tax accountant, and determine, or even an attorney, and determine how they want to file their business. And then they have a separate EIN number or tax ID number to separate out the business from their social, because you don't want us to open the business account under your social. We can't do that under a corporation. You have to have a separate tax ID number.
Here we thought all this time, Dawn, you could just say, I want to open a business and just open a business. No, that's part of what we're learning through these sessions is just all that goes into it before you even launch, before you even take off. Getting a question about this now. Remember, Dawn works for a bank, but I'm going to ask her this question anyway. They say, would a credit
Okay.
union be safer than a regular bank if the economy crashes? Which would be more protective?
What was the first part of the question?
Would a credit union be safer than a regular bank if the economy crashes? Then they're following up with which would be more protective. I know that's a little bit off topic, but somebody posted it, so I figured I should.
No, it's a great question. I would check with the credit union because I've never worked for a credit union, so I would check on what kind of protection they offer. We have FDIC insurance, so if the market were to crash or something were to happen, which I highly doubt it, but if it were, you're FDIC insured up to 250,000.
That's great. That's great to know. And so is that something you can ask? I mean, again, this is your business. For many of us, this is newer. So is that something you can just walk in and say, well, what kind of protections do you have?
Yeah. Yeah, walk in and say, I'm concerned about FDIC coverage. What do you offer? What information do you have on that? And then you can either walk in the bank or ask or go straight to the FDIC website and look into it as well.
Oh, that's great. So I'm guessing it's just fdic.com.gov.org.
Yes, actually in the participant guide that should be
Okay.
attached, I have it. Let me just double check. www.fdic.gov.
.gov. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I figured with something like that, it's probably a .gov. Okay, well,
Yeah,
and that's
I
really
just couldn't
helpful.
remember.
I love that you put together that participant document because it is a lot of information, and I know soon for everybody on here, it's like pretty soon it's going to be no big deal, right? It's going to be like, oh, we know all this terminology and stuff, but there's a learning curve when you're doing something like this. And yes, thank you, Raul, for posting FDIC.gov in there. And then also it looks like you put in the guide if you don't have that here specifically. Great question here coming in. We addressed it a little bit, but this is specific and I'm hoping you can answer it. Does your
Okay.
business need to be registered? I know you can. Does your business need to be registered with the IRS before you can open a business account?
Well, you're going to be getting if you're going to be getting your tax ID number, then it'll be registered through there. But if you go and you're just doing like a sole proprietorship,
Yeah.
you're going to go get an assumed name certificate, typically at the Dallas County, or for instance, Dallas County clerk's office. So then no, and then when you get with your tax person about doing your taxes, that's when that'll happen because you could be a brand new business. You want to get your documents, get the account open, and then when it comes time to do taxes, then that's when the information will get reported.
Yes. I would like to run down, and thank you so much for that, Dawn. And I hope that that answers, I hope that that answers your question to the person who posted that in the chat. And if you need more clarification on any of this, then that's great. Oh, Raul, you're asking about what participant guide. I saw that you posted a Google Doc in the chat, but so I thought that's what you were posting, but that is not what you posted. So no biggie, because it sounds like everybody already got that. It sounds like that should be in your hands. So it's a great one to be able to follow along. And I will say, if you're like, oh gosh, I didn't get that out, this session will be on replay by next week. So if you want to, take it a little bit slower and go through everything with those slides, then by all means, this will be up on Sarah's YouTube channel next week. So you'll be able to do that. Now, let's say we're going in to continue with our role playing here, Don.
Our role playing. Okay, I'm ready.
Monday morning, we've got a nice little chunk of time blocked out and we're ready to go. We have our documents that you just selected. What kinds of questions? Because I'm guessing you're kind of on a fact-finding mission. Just because you go into one bank or business doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be the one that you're going to go with. What sorts of
Right.
questions should you ask to find out if this is going to be the right fit for me for a bank?
The main thing is accessibility. Where's this banking center or this bank located? Is there more than one location? What hours do they have? Because you don't want to find out they close at 4 o'clock, but you need to get a deposit in by 6, and then you don't have the accessibility. And then the next thing is service fees. That's a big thing. We charge a few service fees, every bank will, but make sure that you talk and figure out what the fees are associated with the account so you can know what to expect because that can add up, with what that you have. And then make sure that you know what kind of solutions, what we call solutions, products and services that the bank has to offer you and that it'll fit your needs. The type of checking account, maybe you want to open a savings account as well. So you're going to talk to them about what they have available for you.
Here's a sort of a logistics question. If you're going to a bank that you already bank with, I know that they won't be linked because it's personal and then business, but when you go online, are you able to look at all in one screen or one sphere, or is it a totally separate login for your business?
Great question as well. It depends on the bank. Because depending on, where I worked, sometimes we couldn't commingle it. Right now, the way we set up is we do separate it out. But if I do have a business that needs it together to be able to see their personal business accounts, I have a way to get that taken care of for them. But on the norm, some banks do try to keep it separate since it's separate from business, and personal.
Yeah, when you talk about separate of business and personal, I can imagine if somebody, for people that have been entrepreneurs for a long time, they're really used to doing that. If somebody's just starting and they're, I can imagine it can be like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to use this thing that I already have. Okay, that's for my business. Oh, wait, oh, shoot, which card am I on? Can you explain how important it is to keep those separate and to really focus in once you start the business that this is the account for this and that's all it's for?
Right. And when you open your business account, if the bank sets it up where you have your own login, we know it's a hassle to have a separate login for your business and your personal, but there is a reason for it, help you keep the things separate. Most banks, you're going to have a separate login. So you know that when you log in, you're going to be accessing your business. But our platforms for online banking do look different as well. So when you log into our treasury center for our business accounts, the format's a little bit different. You also have more accessibility with what you can do, and you do have higher limitations on what you can do. Like if you're trying to do a mobile deposit, for instance, through the app, you have higher limits. If you have your accounts combined and it's set up where you can see them all personally, you don't have the same type of platform and your limits won't be as high. You're going to end up being set on consumer limits. So there's just separation to that. But and then when it comes to debit cards typically, it'll have the business name on it and your personal name. So you can keep those separate. I hope
That
that answered that.
yes, yes, that's very helpful. As one of the participants is saying that they were not able to get a guide. Do you know if that's accessible in another way?
Raul was gonna post the guide when it came to registering, I believe.
Okay.
But we could definitely work on that offline and we can get a guide and we can figure out a way to send it out. And then the guide, of course, has the part two. So it's for part one and two. And I just wanted to throw this in really quick. I know it was very condensed, like what Jenny mentioned and what everything that I went over. And that's why I did want to allot this time so we could break it down and I can go over the specific questions you had because it is so much information. And that, again, that's why we broke it down in 2 sessions. So I apologize
Yes.
about the beginning of it, but I'm open to talk about it.
No need to apologize. No, 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 no. That was perfect. It allows us time to chat. So you guys, Raul did just post the link to that. You're gonna have to, if I can, guide you through this, you guys. When you click on it, you're gonna think, "Oh, that's not the right thing. It says external site." Click continue, and then it will take you to the guide, which is really, really wonderful. And it's honestly quite generous of Dawn to put all of that together for us. So that is, that's very, very helpful. Now, here is a great question from the group that I think that this is a great one for you, Dawn. Saying, I'm a long way from starting my business. I am working on my credit before I start my business. Is there anything I can do to help with the costs for a business startup? Is there anything that from the bank perspective that would make sense for that, for somebody who's like, okay, I want to start this business. I'm trying to build up my credit, but I'm a little bit stuck.
So when we're referring to, let me make sure I just understand the startup part of it. Are we referring to getting the paperwork together and getting the business account open and starting to save money, or building their credit where they feel that it needs to be in order to gain access to some funds?
Great question. As hopefully she'll type back in here and let us know. But can you answer? Do you have any advice in the meantime for people for credit building? I would love to hear your advice on that topic.
Um, well, for us, for instance, with Prosperity Bank, when I look at loans, you're the business owner, so you're going to guarantee the loan. We look at personal credit. We don't pull business credit. We only pull through personal. And so if you need to build your credit, I recommend getting a secured credit card, a secured loan, maybe from 2 different places. So you have it spread out and reporting to the credit bureau. And we use Equifax. So it's very important. That's a great question because it's very important to determine with the bank that you want to try to get lending from who they report to. Because if you go to a bank that reports to Experian and then another one that reports to Equifax, but then you come to me for a loan, we're only going to pull from Equifax. I'm not going to get the other side of what you did because there's 3 credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. It's the same thing when you're buying a car or buying a house. Most places report to all 3 credit bureaus, but for us, we only pull from one, which is Equifax.
Okay, so that might be something to ask ahead of time. If you're like, okay, this is going to be my bank for my banking relationship, who do you pull from?
Yes, if you're considering lending and you wanna build a relationship with that bank and build a rapport, because it's very important to know your banker. Like I mentioned before, do you know them? Do they know you by name? Because you want us to grow with your business. And if we don't wanna grow with your business, you really need to reconsider who you're banking with. Because at Prosperity, we're real bankers. Oh. So we wanna make sure that we're growing with you. So those are questions that you would want to know. Hey, if I'm considering a business loan, who can I talk to about that? Who do you guys pull credit from? There's nothing wrong with asking those questions. And if the banker doesn't know the questions, the banker can get the information and get it back to the business customer.
Okay, that is helpful. And we did just get a response from the guest who originally posted that question about credit, and she says you actually kind of answered it. Student loan debt is keeping her from applying for a business loan.
Ah,
It sounds like. Is that something that you see often?
I mean, we see student loan debt, medical debt, there's other things on there, but depending on what we look at, we don't just look at credit. We're going to look at credit worthiness. your ability to repay back the loan. We're going to look at cash flow, and we're going to look at credit. I'm sorry, credit, cash flow, and collateral is what I meant to say. So we look at multiple factors. So I take that on a case by case basis when I talk to business owners and what they're looking for and what their goal is. And then I recommend, them trying to do a secured loan through us, maybe a secured loan through another bank that reports to the same credit bureau. Try to pay off some debt, depending on the student debt, maybe it's deferred and, because we'll look at that payment monthly and calculate it in, because that would factor in for the debt to income ratio. Debt to income ratios, we take the amount of bills that you have with the amount of income that you have coming in, and that gives us a percentage of your ability to repay back.
Loving this conversation. Okay, so that was, yeah, that was really helpful. And it's almost like I'm wondering if she, perhaps she's been told, you know, you need to, sort of get rid of some of this debt. But if you haven't been told that specifically, it sounds like it's worth a visit to a bank to see instead of just imagining that you can't get the loan.
Right, right. You never know.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to talk to the banker. If you want to proceed with the request, we do an application, get financials, and we go over all of that. And say if I was talking to a specific person, anybody can feel free to reach out to me anytime, set up an appointment with me. If you want to talk one-on-one with me, whether over the phone or in person, I'll be there for you 100%. And I can just give you my advice on what I recommend. Because her case might be different, and maybe she just wasn't talking to the right person. Maybe she put in an application and didn't really fully understand why.
John, it's like the biggest life lesson. It's like all things in life, right? Sometimes you're just talking to the right person. If you get discouraged based on one no or one sort of rejection or something like that, it can take a while to get back up. So
Yeah,
don't be discouraged, keep going. We don't know everybody's individual situation, but keep going and keep trying. Now, this next question is one, it is very specific, so I'm going to put it out there. If it's not in your realm, then totally fine. But since we're kind of free flowing here, it
let's
says,
try.
yeah, a customer buys a product for $10,500 cash. Will I need to file IRS Form 8300 or not?
That's a great question. That is definitely not in my realm of expertise.
Me neither. Me neither. But listen, James, who posted the question, we have so many experts coming on. Hold on to that one because we may, and I'm glad that you made a $10,000 sale. So
That's amazing.
So
Yes.
bravo to James. Wonderful, wonderful. Getting a question. Oh, actually, about just how to, somebody who has more specific questions for you. We know that you are in the North Texas area, but if somebody has questions for you, and I know we'll share this at the end, but they're like wanting to jot it down right now, how can they find you or get a hold of you?
Yes, and I work out of the Grand Prairie and the Oak Cliff areas. I'm in Grand Prairie every day. I know that's not where everybody would be at, but if you need me to meet you somewhere or a phone appointment, my phone number is 972-461-1316. I can also give you my cell phone number. I'm willing for anybody to call me on there if I'm available. It's 817-733-0470. And then my email address should be posted. It's Dawn, DAWN dot Inocencio, INOCENCIO at prosperitybankusa.com.
Thank you so much for being so generous and sharing that. That is really helpful. And I know that a lot of people are watching, people are watching from all over the country, but for people that happen to be in North Texas, it's great. And even just to learn about what you offer and what you do. Now, let's say somebody goes into they go in, they get their, stuff set up. They've already become a business officially. They go in, they get their account set up. What will they expect? Then do you go home with all the cards and everything, or are they mailed to you, or how does that process work?
No, typically cards are mailed. On a normal basis, the cards take about 2 weeks to come in and they'll be mailed to you. Online access is usually set up within 24 hours, but anything that we're doing debit card wise is mailed.
Now, you see a lot of business people come in and out, I'm sure, over the years.
Yes.
What are some of the habits of people who you're like, wow, I can see that they've really got it together. They're continuing this banking relationship. We're continuing to want to do business with them. Sort of best practices of business owners as it relates to their relationship with the bank.
Um, The business clients that I've worked with that, I mean, I want any business client to come and want to bank with us. If they want to bank with us, I want you to be happy. If we're not providing us something that you need and you can go to another bank and you get something better, just visit me or visit the banking center when we have something that you need. Because, every bank has their own products and services and solutions that they offer to customers. So if they're coming to me, that's great. I want to build a lifelong relationship with them because, I work for you. I want to get you taken care of. So the best customers that when they come in, they know what they want, or if they don't know what they want, we break it down and we help you with it and come up with a solution, get your online banking set up. That's key. I know I've mentioned that a few times, but poor customers, they'll call me and they're trying to make a mobile deposit and they're out of state or out of country and they can't get this money deposit in their account because they didn't get it properly set up or some technical issue happening on either end. So that's important to get that set up in the beginning.
It's interesting because I'm starting to see, you mentioned like convenient locations. I'm like, a lot of, am I off by thinking physical locations are not as abundant as they once were?
Um, Depending on where you bank. A lot of people that I talk to, I'm like, if I say convenient because you need to make sure if you have to go inside of a bank to make a deposit, that it's accessible. But if I have a business customer who has like a remote deposit capture, what we call RDC at home, then you don't have to worry about it unless you have an issue.
For people who are like, oh gosh, maybe they haven't done a lot with online banking, or explain with, is it RDC? Was that the,
I'm sorry, I'm bad about using abbreviations. We all bankers are. We use It's a remote deposit capture, and that's only if you get an influx of checks monthly from your customers. Whether you're a medical office or say lawn landscaping and you have a home office and you want to process the checks from your home. You can process the checks without having to go in the bank. And then as a bank, our treasury management sales team will go over retention, safeguarding the checks because they do have sensitive information on it. But you as a business owner, you don't have to come into the bank to make deposits if you get multiple checks. There's fees associated with it, but it might be worth it for your time.
yeah, I mean, it just, I love a remote deposit situation. I forget even what your letters are, but like,
I know.
depositing from home, not having to go anywhere, right?
Yes.
Like that's the name of the game these days. Can you explain the security, like for people who are like, oh my gosh, that seems wild. I've only ever gone to a bank. Can you explain how safe that is and how that works?
Well, each person's different. So our treasury team would go over it with the business owner. But the transactions that I've been involved in with some of my clients throughout the years wanting to get remote deposit capture is we would just recommend that they safeguard it. Whether it's at their dental office, medical office, or their home-based office, you need to safeguard it. Whether my recommendation would be like a locked filing cabinet, something fireproof, something where the information would be protected, since it does have your customer's information on there as well as yours. Since you're depositing the checks into your account. So that would be my recommendation, but it is possible, and we do have the tools and resources whenever someone's interested in setting that up, someone from our treasury team calls them and goes over all the benefits and the features of it.
Okay, so they'll kind of make you feel comfortable with it. Now,
Absolutely.
when if you have a dental office or something like that, it seems a little more obvious. If it's a home office, what do you what do you recommend in
Uh,
terms of keeping the checks safe, and how long do you keep them, and how does that work?
I don't have the exact retention, what we call a retention schedule at this time. The last time that I was involved in one, I believe it was 90 days. Because anything can happen with the check, stop payment on the check, a chargeback, or what we call like a deposit item returned, which I'm sorry, what we call a chargeback. So say you deposit a check from your customer and it comes back insufficient funds, they didn't have enough money or stop payment or some case like that, you would want to retention the checks, just so you could have that original check if you were to need to refer back to it. But that's again something our treasury team will go over and recommend what we call like a retention schedule. And I recommend if it's a home-based office, I've had customers who've worked from home before over the years, and they had like a locked filing cabinet or a fireproof cabinet. And this was just something that they wanted to do. And I don't have firsthand knowledge of what they have to agree to, but we do have an agreement that the customers do sign. So they're obligated, to keep the information safe. So that's something that's gone over at the time.
I'm trying to talk on mute. That is not helpful. So I wanted to let everybody know that initial link that we posted with the guide, for many of us that showed up as blank. I got a couple of you saying thank you so much for that, but it is blank. However, the link that was just posted in the chat, I'm clicking on it as we speak. So if I seem all over the place, it's because I'm taking your comments, taking my notes, and also clicking on this link. And it looks like it works really well. So if you want to, if you didn't get that ahead of time, please do click on that link, and then you can save it, you can minimize it, and you can print it off after this, because we're going to be doing another session with Dawn next week. And so I really want you to be able to, sink your teeth into this information and let it soak in, so that next week, if you have questions, then you kind of know where she's coming from. So that is in the chat right now as we speak. So now there's this. Somebody who wants to start a vintage clothing reproduction business. She's asking, is made to order a good idea for now until I get my credit and savings up for a business startup? This is somebody that's tight on cash, but wants to kind of start doing a little bit of business beforehand, asking if made to order is a good idea, sort of prove to the bank, hey, look, I'm already doing this on my own.
So with her doing made to order, that means that she gets the order in and then she makes the product and sends it out. It would really just depend on, if how much fun she had. Because I've seen some businesses on a business lending standpoint, we're gonna look at your tax returns, how much cash you have coming in, your ability to repay back the loan. So regardless if you do ready to ship items or made to order is really just whatever benefits your business. If you just wanna do, make them when they get ordered, and it's gonna be the same and you can produce the same way, it will be what's convenient for you as the business owner. But I do know some businesses do get success from having ready to ship items because they're ready to go same day and they don't have to wait for them to be made. So it'd just be up to you on that point.
Are there any, thank you so much for that. That were really helpful insight. Are there any businesses that you, for example, like, do you have to be a certain size in order to do a business count, or too big, too small, or is it truly every range?
It's truly every range. Every range, that's the best answer. You can go into a bank and we will be able to get you an account opened regardless if you've got one employee, which is yourself. You're considered an employee. You've got the owner and you, and you only have, you don't have that much in sales. The banks are here. We're going to take care of you regardless of how big you are. Big or small, we're going to take care of you from the beginning.
Doesn't everybody love to hear that? They're going to take care of us
They
from the
better be. I
beginning.
mean, the banks better be wanting to take care of you because this is what we're in business for. We should want to grow with you from no matter how small you are to how big, we should want to grow with you. And that's how I'm a firm believer on that, being in banking for 20 years, 110% focused on customer service, and I want you to be taken care of.
Well, yeah, I mean, ideally, everybody on here who wants to start a business, who is even, some people I know you're already business owners. Some people are like, I haven't even gotten that far, but I'm trying to think of a concept. Hopefully everybody is just wildly successful and just has a lot of funds flowing. Is there a max? Is there a time when it's like, okay, my business has grown so much, I need to transition away from my bank, or do you truly stick with people for their whole business careers?
I like to stick with people if they'll stay with me and say they get with our banker and they open a business account and their business is just so booming. Then we want to get them back in to discuss with the banker, maybe opening a savings account. Or, maybe they want to start investing for their business. We have an investment with our bank, we have an investment company, so they might want to, invest in their business. So we definitely want to grow and help them. So when they get bigger like that, they just need to come back in and visit with the bank or visit with, like myself being a banking center president. Talk to me about it. Let me know. Let that person know, the person you have that relationship with. Let them, I think I have too much money in my main account. What do I need to do with it? I don't need it all sitting in this main account, and then we can discuss a solution for you.
I hope we all have that problem, guys. I hope we've got too much money in
Yeah,
our
that's
account.
amazing.
Dom, what are we gonna do with all this money?
Let me help you.
Yes, a good question coming in from the group saying, is being on disability going to be a challenge for a small business loan? I don't know if that's something you can speak to or not.
I mean, you have income coming in. So we're gonna look at your business income that you have coming in, and then we're also gonna, most of the time when we look at business loans, we're gonna look at your tax return, so we're gonna see that income coming in. So, I mean, there's not anything negative with it. We're gonna, we consider it your income.
Okay, that's great, and it is steady.
And yeah, it's steady. So if you have your primary business and you have cash flow with that business, and then as a business owner, you're like, oh, I also have my disability check coming in and it's on my tax return. Here it is. That's great. We're going to look at that additional income for you.
Okay, that's very helpful. You guys, last call for today for questions. If anybody has any other questions for Dawn, post them in the chat and I will get them answered right here. Getting some smiley faces, some thank you, some yays. So that's good. I think the yays are for all of us having just too much money and having to send it all to Dawn and just finding out where we can get it. I would love to get a preview of what we're going to be covering on the next session next week, Dawn.
So the next session, I'm going to be discussing additional bank services that the bank can offer to you. And then I'll be touching on lending. Where to start with lending, the account process, once you get past the account process and then you want to start with a loan, I'll be breaking that down a little bit more. And if I can't help you, I'll give you advice on who you could go to for your loan.
I think it's clear that that's really the direction that the questions are starting to go. So I think you were right on point with planning.
Yeah.
You were really right on point with planning that out and just helping people to get more comfortable with this type of conversation and with this type of discussion because again we're all coming from different facets and some people just really like getting up the courage to even go start and some people are well on their way with their businesses. So just so that you know that you are getting the loved on in the chat, people are saying they enjoyed it, good information, can't wait for next week, very helpful, smiley faces. So all of the above being sent to us, and we're looking forward to next week.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Yes. So here's my reminder for you guys. On the chat over on the right-hand side, if you didn't get the guide, scroll up. There's a few comments. Well, actually, you know what? All these comments, I don't know if they're on your screen, so you might not have to scroll up very far. Just scroll up and then click on that Google Drive document. You can print it off, soak it in. You got a week to read it. And then if you want a review of what Dawn talked about, this will be up by Wednesday on Sarah's YouTube channel. So for more information on Sarah's programs, and they really do have so many rich, helpful programs, go to the website there on the screen, also in the chat, and then the YouTube channel listed as well. And Dawn, it's a date, a week from today. I will see you here.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Talk to you soon, everybody. Have an excellent week, and we'll see you in a week.